Hey Village, welcome back. If you're new, welcome to your Marriage Village, where I provide resources to foster healthy marriages. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. All right? Okay, so today we're going to be talking about balancing your relationship with your in-laws. Now, this is a topic that is really, really touchy for many reasons, which I don't even need to go into because we already know that people love their parents, and parents, healthy parents, love their children, right? In fact, all parents love their children. Some are just unhealthy and therefore cannot navigate the relationship with their children in a healthy manner. But parents love their children. And because of that dynamic, we have a lot of conflict within marriages because in-laws, son-in-law, daughter-in-law, mother-in-law, father-in-law, sister-in-law, all the in-laws don't get along. So how do we navigate this kind of relationship? I'm going to just start by telling you what I have observed in practice. And here's what I've observed. Out of all my couples that I've seen, the primary reason that I see divorce most of the time is because of in-laws intervening in relationships. Couples are able to handle their conflict. They're able to have a fight, a resolve a fight. And when I say fight, I'm not saying violence. I'm talking about, a healthy disagreement. Couples can have that. They can have the conflict, they can navigate it, whether it takes them 6 months, whether the conflict is a year, they're able to work through it. But when other people, especially family members, get involved, that's when things go downhill quickly. Now, because I've seen such a high divorce rate stemming from in-laws, I know affairs cause, divorce, and all of those things cause divorce. But I'm going to tell you, in my practice, I've seen a lot of marriages fall apart because of the in-laws intervening, getting involved, in crossing boundaries, so to speak. So here's one of the first things that I say to my couples. The first thing I say is, when you're getting married to someone, you need to establish what I call the fair in-law rule. The fair in-law rule. And what does that look like? It simply means that I can come to you at any time and complain about your family members to you, and you don't take offense to it. And you can come to me and complain to me about my family members at any time, and I shouldn't take offense to it. Now, it's hard for people to do this if they're not clearly differentiated, meaning they don't have their own identity outside of their family. As adults, we're supposed to be differentiated people. Kind of like in the biblical term, kind of like the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. God is his own person, Son, the own person, the Holy Spirit, his own person, right? Yet they are three in one. They have their own identities, yet they're three in one. And that's how it is supposed to be in a marriage. When you leave your parents, when you leave your family of origin, you're supposed to be a clearly differentiated person. Meaning you still belong to your family. You have their genes, you have most of their probably personality traits. You're going to carry a lot of these things, right? But you are your own person. You have your own identity. When we don't have that, then we end up having a lot of conflict because we are enmeshing our families of origin with our marriage. And it will just have too much of that going on, that there are no clearly defined roles. So you want to have the fair in-law rule. And for us to have that fair in-law rule where I can come to you and say anything about your family, you can come to me and say anything about my family respectfully, right? But that we are able to complain, because complain is important. We have to be able to complain because we're people and we get hurt. So if your spouse cannot complain to you about your parents, about your siblings, about your caregivers, about your family members, then you're not going to have a healthy marriage, because people are going to become resentful. If I can't come to you and your family members, I feel, are doing things to hurt me, and I cannot come to you and complain, I'm going to build resentment towards you, towards your family member. Hence, the struggle continues. So we have to be able to create this kind of environment in our marriage right off the bat. And if you haven't done it, it's not late. You can start today. You can say from today going forward, we're going to have the fair in-law rule where I can come to you about anything regarding your family and you can come to me. That's part one of this fair in-law rule. The second part of the fair in-law rule is this. I can come to you and you can come to me, yes. But when I come to you, I cannot impose as far as when you choose to address your family regarding the issue. Or even if you choose to address your family regarding the issue. There may be times when you may never address your family. Hopefully you're sound about that, right? Maybe because you just know that this is just going to be worse. There's no good end in sight regarding this issue. So maybe if I leave it, at least for now, it's going to be okay. But I cannot impose that you go now and speak to your mother now because your mother just upset me and I'm telling you about it. The same rule that applies to how you resolve conflict in marriage, which we're going to do another video on that. That same rule in terms of knowing the time to fight, knowing the time to have a disagreement, knowing the time to come and say something is wrong, selecting a good time to talk about issues that are disturbing in the relationship. The same thing goes for the fair in-law rule. You have to give your spouse the time and the place to address the issue. He or she gets to choose, not you. What's important is that you're able to vent to your spouse. You're able to go to your spouse and say, this happened, I'm not happy about it, I don't like it, it really bothered me. And you and your spouse can sit down, right, and reason together what happened. You can talk about it in a healthy way, and then your spouse will follow through with it. But again, not under pressure from you. Well, you must go and address this now with your father. I just told you what he did to me, and why aren't you speaking up now? You don't know the dynamic in these people's relationship. For many cultures, many families, children don't just speak to their parents at any time, any place, just how they feel, using any tone. So first of all, if your spouse is now upset that his or her parents have upset you, do you think this is a wise time for them to go and address their parent or their parents? I don't think it's a wise time. And I'm sure you don't think so either. So you really want your spouse to choose the time to go to his or her parent to address the issue. But you get to vent. You have a right to vent, and you get to do that. Okay? That's the other part of this. Now, the other piece of this is, as far as the fair in-law rule is concerned, you never want to address conflict with your in-laws in the absence of your spouse. I don't think I even have to really explain more why you shouldn't do this, but I'll just explain. Think about this. If you go to your father-in-law, your mother-in-law to address an issue because you're really upset about something that's happened and you can't wait, and you bring this up and you get into a heated argument and things are said back and forth, words are exchanged, your spouse is nowhere around. Your spouse returns and your in-law goes to explain what happened. How is your spouse supposed to decipher who's right, who's wrong? How are they supposed to navigate this whole dynamic here that's taking place? Whose side do you think they're going to choose? And why are you putting them in a position where they have to choose sides? Call a meeting. Ask your spouse for a meeting. Ask your spouse to ask his or her parent for a good time for you all to meet. And then you sit down, whether around the table, whether outside, whatever, even if you want to do a little grilling, and then you have the conversation. But you don't address it in the absence of your spouse, because there's nothing good that can come out of that. And if your in-law is manipulative, he or she can use this and twist this entire situation. And now your spouse is viewing you as the bad person. So the wise thing to do is to really wait and have a meeting, have a family meeting, and bring up the issue so that your spouse is sitting right there and you don't have to explain yourself any further. Okay, so that's what you want to do. Now, the other thing that is really important in terms of dealing with in-laws is that you all need to have clear boundaries. So when people come to me and they say, we have in-law issues, I say, no, you don't have in-law issues. You have boundary issues. You have boundary issues because if you had clear boundaries, then your in-laws will not be able to penetrate. But if your boundaries regarding your marriage are porous boundaries, then here they are, seeping right all through it. You don't have to be rigid because you need flexibility. But you need to have firm, clear boundaries, right, regarding your marriage. So your mother-in-law, your father-in-law, or your parents, they need to know where they stop as far as the line is concerned regarding your marriage. Where do they stop? Can they walk up to you and say anything to you about your spouse? Do you sit with them and gossip about your spouse and gossip around about your spouse? Do they show up at any time without you consulting with your spouse? Are they allowed to interrupt your conversation with your spouse when it's just the two of you having a conversation regarding your home, regarding your children, regarding your marriage? Are they allowed to interrupt? If you don't have clear boundaries, then anyone can penetrate your boundaries and you can't blame them. So you really have to have clear boundaries around your marriage. The two of you have to agree to do that. But you see, the joy of having the fair in-law rule is that when you have the fair in-law rule, then nothing seems unfair in the marriage regarding your in-laws. It's not like, oh, you're not treating me right. I can't say anything about your sister, but here you are, you have free range to say anything about my family members. You don't have any of that kind of situation because you know that I can come to you at any time. And I know that you can come to me at any time with anything regarding our family members that we are not pleased with. And I'm not going to use it against you, and you're not going to use it against me. We're going to find a way to resolve it amicably, respectfully. And I'm going to give you the space to face your family, and you're going to give me the space to face my family at the time that I deem appropriate and that you deem appropriate. That's how it's going to be. If we start that early in the marriage, chances are we're going to have zero issues with in-law. Not that they wouldn't try to provoke us, not that they may not bring conflict towards us, but because we know where we stand, the two of us, because we have our boundaries in place, because we have the fair in-law rule in place, now we're not worried. We're not concerned because we know that no matter what comes, we're going to take care of it. And the in-laws all know that these two, you can't penetrate them. Right? So Hopefully the agenda is not that I want you to hate your mother. I want you to hate your father. I want you to be against your parents or your guardians or your caregivers. Hopefully you don't have any of those issues, but you just have issues where people don't know their boundaries. So they're overstepping and they're coming into your home and they're trying to do things. And maybe somebody, may not understand the value of marriage. And because you don't understand that value, they're not able to help you foster a healthy marriage. So you become very aware of that. You know your family, you know your parents. You become aware of that and you say, you know what, I'm not going to allow that to happen in my home. So I'm going to keep boundaries in my home. I'm going to establish a very fair rule with my spouse so that we can respect each other's families, that they all feel happy and pleased around us, and that we are also satisfied, happy and pleased interacting with them. All right. So if you haven't gotten married yet and you're planning on getting married, establish now the fair in-law rule. Do it now. If you're already married and things have been going all over the place in your marriage, because of your in-laws and you're not on the same page, you're fighting a lot, come together today or this weekend, sometime soon, come together and establish the fair in-law rule. Nobody's family is off the table as long as it's done respectfully, tactfully, and with consideration. All right. So I hope this has been helpful for you. If you have more questions regarding the in-law dynamic, that kind of situation, then text it below and I will address those questions for you. All right. In true village sense, remember it takes a village. I pray that God will bless you. He will strengthen your marriage. If you have conflict with your in-laws, I pray that there will be comfort even as you deal with the conflict. And I pray that there will be complete healing in your marriage. All right. I'll see you all soon right here in the village. Take care.